Welcome back to the Forgive Yourself podcast. I'm your host, Brenda Reese. This episode is a tender one for me. Not just because it's episode 100, which is amazing. It's because of everything it took to get here. Being honest, I've had moments over the last couple of years where I felt bad, even ashamed, that I haven't been consistent with this podcast. Most people don't know that I started this podcast in November of 2022. And I started it with so much heart and intention. And then life happened. I became a full-time caregiver to my husband as his dementia progressed. I navigated exhaustion, grief, fear, and eventually the heartbreak of moving him into memory care. And at the same time, I was unraveling in my own way, tending to my health, going to more appointments than I can count, trying to hold my business, trying to hold myself. There were long stretches where recording an episode felt impossible. And somewhere along the way, a quiet story formed in my head. I should be further along. I should be more consistent. I should be doing better. You know, it's interesting because those same shoulds are the ones that so many of my friends and clients carry too. So for this episode 100, I don't want to talk about productivity or milestones. I want to talk about something deeper. I want to talk about the story that so many women silently believe, that we're broken. And I want to offer you something different. So this episode is a love letter to you, to me, to the woman who has been surviving for more than she ever gave herself credit for. Over the last year, I have found myself sitting with a lot of shame and guilt around my body. Shame for not taking care of myself the way that I wish I had. Shame for decades of putting other people first. For being a caretaker, a people pleaser, a high achiever, the strong one, which often meant not exercising the way I wanted to, not eating the way I wanted to, not resting, not even having the energy to do fun things or to even nurture friendships. And now that I'm in my 60s, I've noticed this quiet fear underneath it all. Did I wait too long? Did I ruin my body? Is it too late? Because a lot of this came up because there's more diagnoses for me. Osteoporosis in both hips, an issue with my uterus, and a hamstring tear that is actually really painful. And I felt that old familiar story rise up. What's wrong with me? Why does my body keep breaking down? And then the big one, what have I done? Or not done? Maybe you've had versions of this story too, especially if you're a high achieving woman, successful on the outside, very capable, very responsible, yet quietly carrying the weight of decades of self-abandonment. Now, if you can relate, I want to share something with you. You are not broken. Your body is not betraying you. And your nervous system isn't defective. Your story is not evidence of failure. It's evidence of survival. It's evidence of love. It's evidence of adaptation. You did what you knew how to do with the awareness, the resources, and support you had at the time. That, my friend, matters. And there was something else I noticed recently that surprised me. As I have been going to a lot of appointments to take care of myself, and I mean a lot, I realized I had slipped into what I call being the good patient role. Now, this fits into that good girl syndrome that I talked about a few episodes ago. Not missing an appointment, doing all the exercises, doing what I'm told, saying yes to everything. And the big one, trying to do healing perfectly. And then feeling guilty and ashamed that I didn't have the same availability for my business or my clients. I was squeezing my business into the spaces I could find. I was exhausted. And the important part really was I felt really bad about it. The shame. It took some honest work with my coach to see what was underneath, because even in healing, I was over functioning. Even in taking care of myself, I was trying to earn worth. That realization landed deeply for me. Now, to get to this realization, my coach worked with me through an exercise. This is why I believe we all need a coach, a therapist, or someone that we can really trust deeply to share with. But before sharing the exercise, I do want to say this exercise had me feeling sick to my stomach because of the shame I was carrying around my schedule and the appointments and my business. Luckily, I know how freeing it is to have a witness to the story that we are making up about ourselves, because my first experience with that was in AA and sharing what they call a fifth step with a sponsor. And she was someone who didn't judge me. And that's what is super important. Now, the fifth step, if you don't know, is about sharing your stories of what you feel you've done wrong and the story about who you think you are because of those things you've done wrong or feel like you've done wrong. And at the end of this fifth step, it was like losing 20 pounds afterwards. But getting there was a little challenging. So this exercise had me feeling the same way, because this one was me sharing about all the appointments I was going to, all the things that I felt was keeping me from doing what I wanted to do or said I wanted to do in the business. So I spoke them out loud, and she wrote them down. Every single one. And there were a lot. And I'm not talking 2, 3, or even 4 or 5. There were a lot. And then we wrote down all the responsibilities that I had, right? All the things that are on my calendar or take up time. Doug, my husband's doctor's appointments, and even visiting Doug in memory care. Being available because for the electrician and the plumber for things that I needed to take care of here at the house, because there's more things that started happening. I also have a grandchild that lives with me. And then there's also spending time with the other grandkids and trying to fit in workouts because, bone density and finding out about osteoporosis. I've been trying to take care of myself. Even the drive time, count the drive time to the appointments, she said. Paying the bills and doing the things, even taking a walk. I mean, everything, right? Write it all down. And as she wrote several pages of notes, I felt myself shrinking. I'm like feeling really heavy. And yet at the same time, like kind of holding two truths at the same time, which I talked about in another episode. I was also starting to feel some relief. Just a little, like getting it off my chest, right? There's a reason why we have that saying. And a lot of this relief, or this feeling of relief, was because I was no longer carrying this secret inside of me. And I had heard years ago that secrets will kill you because of that shame, because that heaviness that it weighs on us. It's true. And in sharing this with my coach, She validated my exhaustion. She witnessed the survival I had been in. She didn't judge me. She heard me. Then we did something simple, yet really powerful. I put my hand on my heart and asked, which of these appointments are truly needed right now? Which ones feel supportive? And which ones feel driven by fear or obligation? My head immediately told me, well, all of them. I need all of them. I mean, I felt this anxiety come up. You need all of them. Yet my body told me a different story. As I took some breaths and I listened to my body, I felt the sensations. I was in my body. I saw an image of myself as a little girl, about 7, 8 years old. I could feel her loneliness and I could feel her fear. And then a realization came to me. That was the age I was right after my parents got divorced. My mom had gone to work after being a stay-at-home mom with me. I felt I had lost her, my lifeline. And then I remembered something I hadn't thought about in years. I used to pretend I was sick sometimes, not because I wanted to be sick, but because if I was sick, my mom had to stay home. She had to be with me. Do any of you relate to that? My little girl just wanted connection. She wanted to feel loved. She wanted to know she wasn't alone. And in that moment, I realized it wasn't about appointments. It wasn't about being a good patient. It was about this younger part of me still trying to get care and connection and feel loved. That's what those appointments were about. So I gently spoke to her. I let her know she isn't alone anymore. I'm here, I told her. And I asked her if she wanted to come into my heart where I can love her and she won't be alone. And I shared with her that she doesn't have to earn love through illness or suffering anymore. And as I was sharing with her and talking with her, the vision of her, which I had seen farther away, started coming forward and then fade right in front of me. And then I could feel this softness start to happen in my heart. What this exercise did was guide me in being able to reframe the things I was beating myself up for. It provided me with a different perspective coming from Robin, my coach, who was seeing my story differently than my head was telling me. And then I could see it too. That's why having a coach or therapist or someone that you truly trust to share your stories with is so important, and that you're open to getting feedback from. Because like I always shared, even a coach needs a coach. We need help when we're in the middle of our stuff. Now, that offering of a different perspective is what shifts our energy, and that can help us to change our story and feel that relief. And that's what the forgiveness work does. So if you relate to this at all, even if it's not exactly the same for you, maybe if any part of it tugged at your heart, I want to offer you a reframe. You didn't neglect your body because you didn't care. You didn't put yourself last because you were lazy or irresponsible. You learned early that love came from being useful, from being needed, from being strong, and from not having needs. Those were survival strategies, not character flaws. And survival strategies make sense in those environments that we grew up in, but they do not have to be our future. You are not broken. You are becoming. You are learning how to be with yourself in a new way. You are building a relationship with your body, your needs, your wants, and your inner world that maybe no one ever modeled for you. My friend, that is brave. That is sacred work. I want to leave you with a few gentle invitations. Ask yourself, what part of me needs tenderness right now? And then notice, and maybe even ask yourself, where am I shaming myself for coping? Where do I feel that? Where am I telling a story that I'm behind? And then see if you can experiment with this. Place a hand on your body, somewhere that feels natural to you, maybe heart, stomach, wherever you would like to put it. And then take one slow breath as far down into the body that you can, just as deep as you can go. And quietly say to yourself, out loud or in your mind, I didn't fail. I survived. I'm allowed to start again right where I am. Small moments of self-trust matter. Small moments of self-kindness matters. They add up. They are a superpower. You know, this episode 100 isn't proof that I did everything right. It's proof that I kept coming back. And if you're still here, listening, trying, questioning, softening, so did you. You are not broken. You are becoming. And I'm so grateful to walk this path with you. Until next time, take care, my friend. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did enjoy it, would you do me a favor and share this episode and then follow us on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss one episode of the Forgive Yourself podcast, where every Friday you will get tips, tools, and stories so that you can turn your pain into peace. Take care.